about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So staffing issues have plagued hospitals, have plagued schools, have plagued everywhere, including air traffic control. And we've known for years that air traffic control and the Department of Transportation have struggled to get people and enough people to, quote unquote, man their posts or be there at their posts. And after this D.C. Plane collision between an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk helicopter, resulting in the loss of 67 lives, there's a lot of attention now looking at, well, what happened in the air traffic control room? You know, was it the Black Hawk helicopter or the training mission that failed, and was that the wrong altitude, or were they wearing night vision goggles and couldn't see periphery, or was it an issue with air traffic control? And even if it was an issue, multiple issues that led to this, you know, what can we fix? And that's kind of part of the grieving process. Whenever we grieve, we at first deny it happens, and then we kind of get angry, and then we try to intellectualize and figure out how we can fix this. And so air traffic control lack of staffing has been an issue for a while. One major issue was you have to work on site. Very few air traffic controllers can work from home. And when we had the post-COVID era of, yeah, you could work from home, you should have work-life balance, flexibility, air traffic controllers, they need to be on site. There's very few opportunities to work from home, and accessing such critical data, such as where planes are, et cetera. You just can't do it. You have to be on site. And so as everybody and their mother seems to have jobs where they get to work from home or double dip, trying to recruit people to come to the office and work one single full-paying job is tricky. Not to mention, some of these air traffic controllers are only making $60,000 a year. Some can make up to $200,000, but average I'm hearing is roughly about $103,000 a year. Don't quote me on that. It depends on which airport you're at. And so looking at Reagan National Airport, we're being told by NBC Washington that the air traffic control tower at Reagan National Airport as of September 2023 had 19 fully certified controllers. But the target set by the FAA and the Controllers Union called for 30. So almost half. And I get half is 15, but it's easier to say it that way. So before the FAA's 2024 hiring totals were announced, the latest workforce plan had said the agency was short 3,000 controllers to fill air traffic control stations and towers across the country as of May. This is according to Airlines for America. So what happens when you're not staffed? Well, as we were talking about back in 2022 and in 2023 with all these near misses that were happening in airports, many of these controllers are working overtime. They're burnt out. Somebody's got to cover. And we, sadly, this was a disaster we knew was going to happen. When we heard about these near misses and actually some on ground minor collisions between airplanes, we're like, what's going on with air traffic control? And God bless air traffic controllers. That's a tough job, let alone you doing the job of two people. They're saying the person that was in charge or that was speaking to both the helicopter and the American Airlines flight was supposed to be manned by two different people. And instead, that person was running two operations. That's not supposed to be happening. And when you listen, and again, I don't have a lot of flying experience. I took some lessons. My husband's the pilot. But when you're listening to air traffic control and the audio, you know, you're like, where's the response? Where's the answer back? Are they on a different frequency? What's going on? And you almost hear the same person's voice. Then I get it would be easier for, one person to guide two aircrafts that are close together. But what else was that person doing? How, so an investigation is going to look more deeply into this, but we have had for a while an air traffic controller issue, and in terms of staffing, and how do you staff very highly needed, highly specialized, very skilled positions in a time where the labor shortage hasn't really rebounded like it should have in those sectors since the whole COVID era of, you could work from home. And it's a thing now. Now, some people are saying what Trump is doing is hurting the air traffic control in terms of offering them a buyout if they don't want to come to work full time. I don't know how much of that is necessarily applicable to specific air traffic controller positions because they have to work on site anyway. Now, if Trump is making massive cuts to government agencies, that would be a problem. I doubt he is going to fire air traffic controllers who are working on site, unless, of course, he doesn't think that they're qualified or they've been written up multiple times and they can't do their job. But if $103,000 a year salary, or even some of these people are making $200,000 a year, is not enough, we're going to have to figure out what exactly is needed to get people staffed. What sort of training is involved? And I think a big part of it is this concept of, well, other people get to work from home. And we've been talking about this for years. So many doctors lost their nurses, lost their staff, had to close down. In fact, I was talking to multiple doctors throughout this whole era where they're using family members to man their posts. And sorry for the lack of a better term, in medical offices, because staff, it's when there's an option to do a job where you get to work from home and be closer to your kids and, get to sleep in and get to be with the pets and work out. That's what people want to choose. And Trump, I think, is trying to alter that stay-at-home work culture by saying, look, we're going to lead the charge. You need to come back to work. And I think a big issue is the more opportunities there are to not come and work on site, the fewer people want to spend their day on site at work. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I used to work for the EPA. I love the environment. Would I call myself an environmentalist? I think we all, in a way, are environmentalists if we take care of our surroundings, if we try not to pollute the air, if we try not to litter, if we try not to damage other people's breathing space. But I would not probably be considered in this political era an environmentalist. They do far more things that spend much more part of their day recycling, things like that. I try to do my best. But where I feel like a lot of us are not getting credited for our environmental enthusiasm and work to help improve our environment are those of us who take a look at some of the green decisions and green choices and try to bring up, look, this could be risky. There could be an issue that is even worse for the environment than what you're trying to do. And so there's a lot of back and forth as it pertains to electric vehicles. And are electric vehicles what's going to save our planet and stop climate change, even though climate always changes? That's kind of an oxymoron. Climate is always changing. But trends that may produce more severe weather systems. Will electric vehicles be the savior of that, be the Messiah as it pertains to our environment? And when the wildfires were happening during the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the Kenneth fire in Calabasas, and all the other fires, a big concern I had is Californians were not given the same warnings that Floridians were. When Floridians were and North Carolinians were told, look, we have hurricanes coming. Get your electric vehicle away from your house. Get it to higher ground. If it gets wet, if it gets caught on fire, it could be disastrous. It didn't sound like Californians were given the same advice. So many electric vehicles were in the houses, were in the neighborhoods, and once they caught on fire, they're inextinguishable, especially with the water shortage that firefighters were struggling with. Now we have the electric vehicle cleanup, and the EPA is saying this is an issue. In fact, you're seeing pictures of cars that are being labeled not an EV because our first responders and our federal officials and our cleanup workers need to be very, very cautious around a damaged electric vehicle. Not to mention these batteries, these lithium-ion batteries we're being told by the EPA can be releasing a lot of hazardous material into the air and a lot of toxicity. So Daily Mail is reporting that the federal agencies are right now entering phase 1 of cleaning out the debris that has been piling throughout Los Angeles from the wildfires, and the EPA is tasked with removing the hazardous materials. They say lithium-ion batteries are making up a significant portion of these items, and the EPA worries that they may spontaneously reignite, explode, and emit toxic gases and particulates even now that the fire is out. The EPA incident commander, Steve Kalanog, told the outlet that the aftermath of the Palisades and Eaton fires would likely call for the, quote, largest lithium-ion battery pickup cleanup that has ever happened in the history of the world. Well, makes sense. There's a lot of electric vehicles in California. Now that they're becoming more widespread, yes, this will probably be the biggest lithium-ion battery cleanup. But with that statement, it's implying this hasn't been done before. All right, so scientists better get to work, and you better start collecting data. You need to collect data on how this process is going. What is the nearby air looking like? Because a lot of electric vehicles were burned and were burning and were inextinguishable, which, I think might have played a very, very tiny part in why firefighters had to just let certain neighborhoods burn, because the fires were inextinguishable at a certain point. And God bless our firefighters for all the great work they did. So the EPA incident commander, Mr. Kalanog, said that handling the shockingly temperamental batteries is no easy task, requires technical sophistication and care. Now, God bless the EPA for having people trained in this. I don't know how much of a crew they have. And they say that the crew handling the dangerous materials must deionize the batteries first so they could be compressed for proper disposal. They have to wear protective gear, fire-resistant clothes masks, and exposure to overheated lithium-ion batteries could be very toxic, not only because of the fire risk, but because of all the chemicals emitted. They say aside from bursting into flames, humans near damaged or overheated batteries could be breathing in dangerous gases that can burn your eyes, digestive tract, skin, etc. Now, according to Los Angeles City Fire Captain Adam Van Gerpen, told NBC News and also reported by Daily Mail, we don't know the long-term effects of all this exposure, and we haven't seen this on this large a scale and this many electric vehicles. He said this is an unprecedented amount of electric vehicles with lithium-ion batteries in there. So how many are we talking? Well, again, this is why I tell everybody to slow their flip and roll. I get that California wanted to mandate zero emission vehicles, none who were non-zero emission vehicles to be sold by the year 2035. I get they wanted to be ahead of the curve and the forefront of the environment, but you're in one of the wildfire capitals of the country. And we know that electric vehicles are difficult to put out, taking tens of thousands of gallons of water from one vehicle. We know that there's toxic gases that could be emitted, just like with a regular car fire. So why didn't we think about this ahead of time? So how many electric vehicles are we talking about? Well, we might not have the exact number of what is being removed and addressed in Southern California, but they say more than 99,000 zero-emission vehicles were sold in LA County alone in 2024. They have the most electric vehicles out of all the states, and they brag about that. They're proud of that. And mind you, I'm not anti-electric vehicle. I think electric vehicles are cool, but are they safe? We've been hearing time after time these batteries have issues, some of them spontaneously having a thermal runaway reaction when they may overheat. We heard, during Buffalo, during the horrible, horrible snowstorm they had a couple years ago, they couldn't warm up their cars or use their cars. And in extreme heat, what about the desert sun? And now if a car is near a fire or in a wildfire zone, why were Californians told to get their electric vehicle as far away from the fire as possible and as far away from their house? I didn't hear any of that education given or those warnings. California Governor Gavin Newsom is an avid champion of EVs. He gave a stamp of approval to the EPA to ban the sale of all gas-powered cars in the state by 2035. Now, LA residents are being warned that the residual heat from the fires could lead to random combustions and that they should be extra careful in the months following the disasters. I would be very nervous. With the lithium-ion batteries, they said, even if they look like they're intact, they could have damage on the inside, so they continue to off-gas, and the off-gas from these batteries could be toxic to your health. Now, we also have lithium-ion batteries in our phones, electronics, vapes, power tools, etc. But the EPA has to now, one, ensure that they're safe, two, that residents are safe, and three, get this stuff cleaned up and out of there. They say phase one involves the EPA handling and clearing out the risky materials. And then phase two, the Army Corps of Engineers has to launch phase two once it's safe to essentially do the removal of the remaining debris. So what happens next? Well, they say phase two could take up to 18 months. Remember I told you don't expect these people to rebuild their homes anytime soon. It's going to take a while. So if you have an electric vehicle, I want you safe. For the most part, it's a safe vehicle. We're seeing amazing things, but they're very temperamental. and overheating and flooding and I guess poor design of just anything, a dud of a battery. These are things that could possibly be dangerous, and I think we did too much too soon. And if they are emitting dangerous chemicals, somebody needs to measure that and let people know so we could kind of readjust and decide what's the best way to move forward. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Trump has pulled out of the World Health Organization, something he wanted to do and had urged be done after the COVID pandemic, or during the COVID pandemic. And this is drawing a lot of applause, but also some criticism. And the World Health Organization, this was a big move. I got to tell you, when President Trump does executive orders, he's doing a lot of them, and he's making big decisions. And he has his reasons for this one. As you know, the World Health Organization is part of the UN, founded in 1948. The World Health Organization say they connect nations, partners, and people to promote health, keep the world safe, and serve the vulnerable so everyone everywhere can attain the highest level of health. They say they lead global efforts to expand universal health coverage. They direct and coordinate the world's response to health emergencies, and they promote healthier lives from pregnancy care through old age. They say our triple billion targets outline an ambitious plan for the world to achieve good health for all using science-based policies and programs. Now, that's beautiful. All right? And I am sure they do a lot of great work. All right. However, there's a lot of concern from the Trump administration on the World Health Organization's ties to China, their failings to detect, to police, to oversee what was happening. And Trump also thinks that we're getting ripped off by the World Health Organization. Now, I get that we are a country that is very blessed in terms of having access to medications, etc. So HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and other chronic diseases might affect other countries more. And the U.S. has been paying into that to help other countries. And the reason behind that was when there's an issue in one country, it could affect all of us. Look at what happened with Ebola. Look at what, so the idea of being isolationist as it pertains to world health, not very popular among health professionals because, as we saw with COVID, when it got out of hand in China, it came to us. Ebola was going to come to us as people who visited the area came here, and we had people with Ebola in America. Malaria, tuberculosis, look at what happened with the porous border. So hoping that other countries could eradicate their diseases is definitely in America's best interest. But the question is, did the World Health Organization do their job? After COVID, people start to scratch their head going, wait a second. Why didn't anybody oversee this? Why didn't anybody warn us? If there really was a lab leak back in August of 2019, why did we have to figure it out ourselves when our residents and Americans got sick? Why were there all these lies being told? No, it came from frozen food from Italy, or there was a woman eating bat soup and she's patient zero. Really? You're the World Health Organization. You should know what the hell's going on. You're getting the money to do that. And so the millions upon millions of dollars that they're getting from all these countries, President Trump thought, you know what? We're out. Now, I don't know how long we're going to withdraw. I don't know if we need congressional approval for that. But interestingly, Dr. Asim Malhotra was interviewed by Daily Mail's podcast, Welcome to MAGA Land. And he said there's concerns about the World Health Organization's ties to Big Pharma and other special interest groups. He said 80% of the World Health Organization's funding relies on, quote, voluntary contributions, meaning donors. Now, these donors could be philanthropic organizations, non-government organizations, NGOs, or other private entities. And some of these donors might want a return on investment. So let's say it has to deal with a medical device or a pharmaceutical. So a company might say, look, we have a COVID vaccine. Okay, we want you to use our COVID vaccine. All right, we'll ramp up production. Then, we could then brag that our COVID vaccine is the one being used. Now we could guarantee purchasing and your demand, so we could offer supply, and then you start to wonder if there's tit for tat. So, or quid pro quo, or whatever the form. Yeah. So, I guess the funding model is different from when World Health Organization first launched, where the budget was set by the country's annual membership fees. Every country had to pay a membership fee. But now, because they're taking, and they should be able to take donations. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donated $689 million to the UN. But the World Health Organization got part of that money. But what about, what is there secondary gain? And so what Trump has been doing, which has been kind of making some people nervous, but being cheered by other people, is he's kind of putting a halt on some of the spending to figure out where the money is coming from. Rather than let's study it and then decide to stop, he said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to stop it. And then let's see what happens. And then we could always fix it. So remember, Trump's position is unique. Okay, one is he was one of two presidents in our history, I believe, that is doing his second term non-continuously. And after the second term, he's done. Does he want to pave the way for future Republicans and J.D. Vance? Yes, he does. But he also wants to be known as the president that got stuff done. He wants to be known as the president that saved us money, that helped decrease our deficit, that made us stronger. And so he needs money to do that. He needs to support these illegal criminals. He needs money to make the wall. He needs money to purchase Greenland, if that's what he wants to do. And so, just like you saw with the Gulf of America, when we heard he was going to change the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, a lot of people thought that was a joke. I stopped and I said, well, wait a second, this could be a great distraction. So, he could get other things done because everybody's going to be talking about the Gulf of America. Or he's like, well, let's just make it Gulf of America and let's see if it sticks. And it looks like that's what his approach is. Everybody go back to work. Well, you could take a buyout, get paid till September 30th. If you don't want to come back to work, resign, you get that package. If not, welcome back. We still can't secure you, a job because we don't know what's going to evolve. But let's just see what happens if we tell everybody, look, resign if you don't want to come back to work. And he's seen what sticks. He also has very little time to do this in. A lot of people are going, he's too fast. He's going too fast. He's on a time deadline. Once the midterms come, he could be losing control of the House or the Senate. And if that happens, much of what he wants to do will not get done. So he did his executive orders within the first minute of him becoming president. Executive orders were signed, ready to go. I got to tell you, we could learn a lot from his work ethic. I tell you, things were ready to go. They were able to hit the ground running and start working. But he's kind of saying, look, let's just do these rather than surgical precision moves. Let's do these machete moves and see what happens. We could always go back and contribute to the World Health Organization if we need to. We could always, so I don't know if that's the right approach, but that's the approach he's taking. And he has been very critical of the World Health Organization. And I forget how much money. I think we contributed. I think the World Health Organization 2-year budget is $6.8 billion. And I forget how many millions. It was hundreds of millions of dollars that we gave the World Health Organization. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So one of my listeners asked me yesterday if I had learned anything more about the pilot of the military aircraft, being that they were told that she was transgender. I heard that wasn't true, that the pilot, the transgender Black Hawk pilot that people thought were a part of the DC air disaster is alive and well. She was not the pilot. There was a female among the 3 who died on the Black Hawk, and we do not necessarily have much information on her and what happened. And I get, everybody's trying to figure out how to prevent the next one and what's the cause, and they want to politicize it and all that. Right now, just let everybody do their work trying to recover the bodies. That's first and foremost. What's also first and foremost that gets equal attention is to make sure that whatever mistake happened is not happening today, a minute from now, 5 minutes from now, because of all the planes that are currently flying. We're being told by Daily Mail that an air traffic controller was reportedly allowed to leave their post early, right before this American Airlines flight 5342 collided in midair. Now, we were just talking about earlier how there are staffing issues. And part of the investigation, we're getting pieces. It's going to take a while because they're getting a lot of information and they want to verify it, etc. But we're being told insiders and a preliminary internal FAA report have started to reveal some of the details that killed 67 people, 3 on the Black Hawk, 3 soldiers on the Black Hawk helicopter, as well as the 64 passengers and flight crew on the American Airlines flight as it did its final approach to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. And they say that night, an air traffic controller was left to handle both helicopter traffic and manage planes, which was supposed to be divided duty, according to New York Times. These tasks are handled between 2 people from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. After 9:30, the duties are typically combined, they said, and left to one person as the airport sees less traffic later in the night. Well, this accident happened, I believe, at about 8:48. So technically, somebody was still supposed to be on shift. They said a supervisor reportedly decided to combine those duties before the scheduled cutoff time, however, and allowed one air traffic controller to leave work early. The FAA report said that staffing configuration was not normal for that time of day and volume of traffic. Why did the supervisor let the worker clock out? We don't know. I mean, was the worker unfit for duty? Were they in pain? Were they, unable to do their duties? But understand, being a doctor, I got to tell you, I feel for supervisors because staffing is an issue. In fact, one of the worst jobs is being middle management and having to manage staff because people need to call out. Sometimes they just want to call out. Sometimes people are faking. Sometimes people have a date. It's who knows. And so when, and most of the time you as manager have to fill in the cracks. But if you're supervisor and you have to be at another post, what you just did is whoever was there not calling out, you gave them extra duties. And looks like this person was not, I don't want to say that it's their fault. There could be, but that person did not have the extra resources they needed, and maybe that contributed to the crash. So a senior Army official, they said the outlet said that the Sikorsky H-60 Black Hawk helicopter was not on its approved route, and it was flying higher than it should have been. They say approval had been given for the helicopter to fly no higher than 200 feet along the east side of the Potomac, and it would have then avoided the passenger jet. The pilot of the helicopter confirmed sight of the American Airlines flight and was told to stick to their predetermined route and go behind the plane. Sources said the pilot did not stick to the path and was a half-mile off course, as well as being at an altitude above 300 feet. A senior Army official told the Times that the pilot of the Black Hawk had flown the route before and was well aware of the tight altitude restrictions and routes. As the jet approached the runway, those on board had asked air traffic control to change their runway, apparently. The plane, Bombardier CRJ-700, had been cleared to touch down on runway 1, the main airport thoroughfare, but they say the controller then asked the pilot to land on runway 33. A source told the Times that such a move is routine, especially with regional jets, and that the decision might have been made to prevent clogging on the runway. This is according to Daily Mail. They say 5 current and former controllers have also told the outlet that the lone controller of the tower should have been more proactive in directing the two away from each other. And, I'm watching the radar. I'm watching, the little triangles, and it's just so disheartening. And we pray for all who have lost their lives. And as we said, Regional National has been understaffed for many years. Now, apparently the situation improved back from 2023 when there was 19 fully certified controllers, well below the target of 30. CNN had a source who said that the tower was now 85% staffed with 24 of 28 positions filled. But still, they're not at full capacity. And what does that equate to? Well, we're being told that 2 planes had to abort landings at that same airport a week before because helicopters were in their flight path. They said military helicopter flights forced at least 2 planes to abort landings at Reagan National Airport the previous week. They say on Tuesday night, one day before the collision between the American Airlines flight and the Black Hawk, a different plane alerted air traffic control tower that it had to abort its landing to avoid collision with the helicopter. Another plane arriving to DCA from Charlotte had to scrub their landing on January 23rd, again because of a helicopter. What is going on? They had to circle back around. This is according to Fox News. They had to circle back around because there was a helicopter in the flight path, according to Richard Hart, a passenger on the January 23 flight. He said, at the time, I found it odd. Now I find it disturbingly tragic. So what's going on here? Why is the military operating helicopters? Yeah, we're thinking, well, maybe the pilot made a mistake, but they were on a route that they were told to stay on? Why? Is it that part of the training mission is supposed to be how to fly a helicopter among other planes? Is it what I don't understand and many of us are still just in shock. And you would think, all right, if there's a military exercise, you do it away from a commercial airport. But the fact that this kept happening, maybe this was supposed to be them learning how to navigate among poor lighting. So poor lighting, not meaning lack of lights, but too many lights. And we're told they had night vision goggles. Were they trying to emulate a scenario in wartime that could be replicated artificially by the Reagan National Airport? I don't know. But this should have never happened. And I, as I said before, my husband's a pilot. You know, he had an air traffic control incident where they said land on a certain runway, and he said, but there's a plane. And they go, my bad, and then switch the runway. You know, and everybody says, well, you need to be able to look. You can't just trust the air traffic controller. Well, at night, with all those lights, or the helicopter having night vision goggles on, and trying to manage all the reason why we have air traffic control is you need eyes outside the plane. Because when you have to land, I got to tell you, whether it's the woke or the flaps or the buttons or the gears, you need to be, concentrating on your cockpit. And sadly, this happened. 1-877 Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.